talk, we have with us Ricky Woody, who is with Expert Title Escrow Agency. So we love to have our title companies come in and give us information. It also gives our viewers the opportunity to kind of see different personalities and different options, you know, so that they can make a choice, right? And when it's that time for them to buy a property or sell a property, they know who they can come to. I wanted to have you in specifically today, Ricky, to talk about something that's happening with these, I'm going to call them ghost sellers. They're really not legitimate sellers, and all of a sudden you find out there's a scam. Surprise, surprise, another scam in real estate. So what you got going on with that you can share?
Sure. Well, first, introduce myself again. I'm Ricky with Expert Title. As she mentioned, a family-owned business. My father started the company. He's been around for 60 years in this business. I've been with him now for 12 years. So my role at the title company is I'm a title agent. I do title examinations, closings, answer questions. Of course, when realtors like Tammy have questions about title issues we need to clear up and things like that. And what she brought up with this seller or ghost seller scam thing, I actually mainly do see it as a title examiner. I've seen it a few times, about 5 times throughout the years doing title examinations where people will pretend to be the owner of a property. They will get a quitclaim deed set up. Usually they're working with a notary, and they all they have to do is sign the deed, get it notarized, take it to the county, and the county doesn't know, you know, who's the actual seller or not. They don't ask for identification. Even if they did, it could be a fake ID. So they record the deed. So you, as the actual owner, might go to look up your property information, go to sell your property, and realize someone else claims they own your property. So it's definitely been challenging, a headache for owners out there. One thing also to note about that is, a lot of the times these fraudsters are looking for homes that are free and clear, so they know that people aren't actively looking at the real estate that own the property. If there's no mortgage on the property or any other liens, then the impersonators say, hey, I have a good shot at selling this and no one will catch on anytime soon. With these scammers, you also see that a lot of them say they're overseas or out of state, they need to close quickly. So they'll approach the title company, realtors, or potential buyers and say, hey, this is a hot property. I got to get it off my hands quickly. We need to close soon, but I'm out of town and I can't be at closing present. So there are some things you can do to kind of protect yourself in this situation. So the first thing you can do, most counties, we're in Montgomery County, is you can register with the recorder's office. Once you own the property, they have a form you can fill out that will alert you if someone tries to transfer your property by a deed or any other conveyance. So when you would get an alert, I actually filled out this form. I recently transferred my property to a trust, so the recorder called me and said, hey, this happened. So what you can do as a seller, if you get an alert that happened, this doesn't protect you or stop you,
right?
But what it does do is it kind of helps you catch it as soon as it happens, and then you can take steps after that to try to correct it. So they alert you. What you're most likely to do, and what I see in title examinations are, and I don't know if the county provides this affidavit. I imagine they do, because I've seen it a lot after someone's been scammed, is the actual owner will file an affidavit saying, hey, I'm the owner of the property. I never sold to this buyer. I don't know who name of the person committing the fraud is, or the notary. That was not me. They do not own this property. So that at least kind of muddies the water a little bit, and with that affidavit. So from there, you would then have to try to clear up, hey, who owns the property? You'd have to get an attorney, go to court, usually file what's called a quiet title or some other action, just where a judge agrees that you own the property. So those are the steps you want to take initially. Another thing that I would like to go over is, in Ohio, you can buy something called title insurance, owner's title insurance. So most people are aware of home insurance or car insurance or something like that that would protect you against future issues. Title insurance protects you against anything going back to the beginning of time Once you own the property, it would cover you against if there's an owner with a prior lien, you would assume that lien, so you're covered on any liens that would have been missed in a title search that are not filed, fraudulently filed, misfiled of record. It also protects you against forgery of a document. Now, and with regular owner's insurance, you're protected against past forgery. There's something you can now buy that's been out for a while. It's an enhanced policy. Our underwriter is called a home buyer's policy. It's only 15% more of what you would pay for standard owner's insurance, and that covers you against future fraud. So as we were talking about with a seller pretending to be someone else, this will cover you to, for attorney fees and things like that for an incident like that. So I definitely recommend always getting owner's insurance, but definitely getting it homeowner's policy if you're concerned about someone trying to pretend they are you and sell the property.
So does that policy go for the life of when you have the home?
Correct. So any owner's policy, it's for the life. It's unlike a car insurance or something like that. You only pay it once, never have to buy it again. You're protected for life. The other thing that people don't know with owner's policies are you're protected even after you sell the property, because when you convey title to someone, usually by general warranty deed or a similar type of deed, you're conveying the property free and clear of all issues. So with owner's insurance, down the road, if there's something found when you owned or prior to you owning the property, someone could still sue you for a problem. So you're covered for life even after you sell the property with owner's or homebuyer's insurance. So in Ohio, Columbus up north, it's actually built into the contract that sellers will buy owner's insurance for their buyers. Down south, it's optional. So always definitely it's something recommended anytime you buy a property. We also like to inform our realtors too that some realtors will tell their clients without really understanding what owner's insurance is. They'll just say, you don't need it, don't buy it. And that realtor can be liable.
For sure.
For sure. So
Yeah.
So absolutely, as a realtor.
Not the move to make as the realtor.
Yes, correct, correct.
Don't do that. She's actually going to be looking at maybe taking her real estate course and seeing.
Awesome.
So past all this experience and all these podcasts and all the information, she's soaking it up, and we'll see what she does with it. But
never say no. Even that, there's another insurance called closing protection coverage. We don't really need to get into that, but a lot of realtors will say don't get it.
Yeah.
I personally want to get it myself, but always say, you could say, you don't recommend it, but it's their choice to make. But yeah, never say no, because you don't want anything to come back on you.
That liability is real, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So here's another scam that I just had an experience with, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's just something else. So from the deed scams to the wire frauds, from all of this stuff that's going on, and you mentioned, the seller not really being the one in the deal. So here is, as the agent, you get a phone call, and it's somebody who's out of the area, they are in the middle of a family situation, whatever. There's always a reason why they're not there, but they need to go ahead and list the house, list the property. In this case, it was actually land. So I had a client who's been looking for land, and as soon as this came up, I'm like, ooh, that looks interesting. So turn the client on to it. Yes, get out there. Let's take a look. Want to write the offer like today. So contacted the listing agent, indicated we were interested, indicated we were going to write it if I saw it and everything met the needs, right? So same day, listing hits the market. We submitted an offer, full price offer, and I know to hold back some information and details, which we've talked about before. I did not send proof of funds because I hold off until I have the acceptance. Then we'll give that kind of information. And all excited. Everything looks like it's golden, right? It's too good to be true. That's the key. And so as I'm coming back through the end of the next day, waiting on a response, the agent called. And she says, hey, I'm sorry to tell you this, but we had another offer and the seller decided to work with that one. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to be so disappointed, right? So I'm now driving back to the office so I can deliver this news, and it's so frustrating. The whole drive back, I'm kicking myself. Like, maybe we should have just gone in a little bit higher because it marked all the boxes. It checked everything. Like, it was too good to be true, but we could have done better, right? And so by the time I get to the office, the agents called me. And I'm like, did something happen? Like, did the buyer back out? And she's like, you're not going to believe this. It's not the buyer. It's not the seller. So by the time she had this deal all worked out, and it was a cash purchase that they were doing, so it was going to close quick, the seller, the legitimate seller, contacts this agent and says, hey, what is going on? I'm not selling my property. So the person she thought was the seller has the other buyer's proof of funds and information, and obviously isn't the real seller in this transaction. So she was immediately having to take legal steps, do what she has to do. And so it reminded me, you know, we used to do prelim title searches when we have a listing that we know that we're going to go into. I'll reach out and say, hey, can you just check on a couple of things? It's verifying the information, it's making sure. So when I do a listing, I'm usually sitting down with that sellers and having conversations. There's details to go over, there's information, and it's not just a wham bam thank you like all of a sudden. Can you do a quick one? Sure. But I know the red flag is that if you don't know this person and you're not asking for ID, you're not verifying it, it sounds great that somebody is willing to sell their 5-acre land for $49,000.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people that are interested in buying it. But in this case, I was just thankful. I went through the whole roller coaster of emotions, like, oh, we were disappointed, and oh, you know, whatever. But then thankful that I hadn't turned over buyer information for financials that would have potentially put them at risk. Because that seller, the fake seller, is probably already long gone. If they had what they could get as far as financial information, I'm just surprised that it was found out as quick as it was. Thank goodness that the seller was watching or had an idea about his property, so it didn't get to a deed being transferred and fraud activities that way. It was just something that you had to be wary of. And then when I had this conversation with other agents, they've had this same issue. So the issue is that you're getting contacted by phone by a seller who's wanting to sell something, but they aren't there in order to meet you to sign the documents. So you send them the documents, they sign it electronically. And where's the process getting caught? Obviously, title company doing a search, holding anything up, not making it happen so transactionally fast that there is this fraud situation, right?
So yeah, there's a few things. First, again, your experience shows, because as a great realtor, you weren't giving out your client's private information. So as a new realtor, that's a good thing to know. And we talked about this. We just had our last network breakfast. We put on one at least once every year, just kind of finding people to talk about informative things. One of the things was fraud. But key things there, yeah, try not to give out private information. If you have to, you want to do it securely. We do it through secure a email link, WebSafe, or if you can fax. People don't always fax anymore. And if you don't have to give out special Social Security numbers or anything, don't give them out.
Right.
I mean, lenders sometimes, will give us that information unsecured. I mean, I can actually go back as a title examiner. I've found on public records doing title search, you could still today go in the clerk's or recorder's office, public sites, and it'll have non-redacted Social Security numbers and of course people don't even know their information's out there like that.
Disclaimer, don't use that as information to
Yes,
now go
yes,
search.
Sorry. So there's things you can do, the minimal thing, kind of helping you as a realtor or us or anyone with their clients is, in my signature line, I put, wiring instructions, don't change, watch out for fraud, things like that. In this particular case, another thing that you could use and you can ask us to do, one was the prelim search, like you said, which we will gladly do for free, kind of owner date to give you not only who owns a property, kind of give you an idea of what liens are against the current owner, and especially with land, there could be more than one parcel that someone might not be aware of. So we can do that. Another thing we use through our underwriter, it's called Val ID. So you can always, if the buyer, seller, anybody is out of state or somewhere, you can Val ID would just text them a link. They give you their information. They take a picture of the front and back of their driver's license, and Valid ID will literally just check off, show you a green check mark if it's a valid ID through a database that they look at, or if they
Interesting.
think there's something fishy, they'll let you know. So that's something you can do in that situation.
Oh, that's real helpful then.
And then again, just kind of brag more about our title company. Might as well take advantage of it with quick title searches. We do all of our title or most of our title searches in-house. I'm a title examiner, as I clearly have stated. So is the owner of our company, my father. So we try to do titles quickly so we can clear up issues faster. So not only is that a benefit having in-house title examiners, I'm also a title agent. So insurance companies assess risk. So knowing that when I'm doing my title searches, if there is a potential title issue, I will run it by my underwriter immediately if I think it can be cleared up prior to closing and prior to me even finishing my title. I will let the underwriter know of try to eliminate as many risks as possible. Let's say it's an old mortgage. I'll say, hey, this mortgage was 10 owners back. It went through 10 transactions, meaning it probably was released at some point. The underwriter might say, you can overlook that mortgage. We don't even show it in the title search. It never gets brought up at closing. So it helps to be able to clear title issues relatively quickly. And again, it does help in the situations you brought up.
Right.
So another thing, as a new agent, again, try not to give out the social security number if you have to. Call it in. You can call us to say, hey, this is my client's social, or just give the last 4 digits. Usually we don't need it unless we have to clear up a lien. So at that point, we will need the seller or owner to sign an authorization form and try to send it securely if you can to best help prevent fraud. And for everyone, buyers, realtors, us, the most important thing you can do when it comes to wiring is verify wiring instructions. Because that's usually what you'll get is an email saying, hey, I've changed my wiring instructions, please wire to this address. So verify the wiring instructions, also verify the account information, your account information, that it's correct, and our account information as well.
And what's even worse, and that was at the breakfast that you mentioned, was that you'll get an email and it doesn't even say that something's changed. You don't know that something's changed, but one of the digits, something, just very, very hard to even catch that anything
Sure.
did. And so when wire fraud was really just getting started, which, believe it or not, we're in the throes of it now, where it's so commonplace, it's scary. But when it really first started, as the source of the communication, the agent will forward emails and send all of this and copy and copy and copy, and boom, that's what happened, is they were forwarding these instructions from one party to the next, and they don't know, when they hit send, boom, they think it's great. But the receiving part, it's been intervened, and then it's replaced with different information, and then your client's getting it, and nobody thinks, oh, well, I always get emails from her. And well, they didn't really see that the email wasn't from me. My 1 digit's changed in my email address, and suddenly they're off to the bank with a different account number, and I don't know it, they don't know it until it's too late. And that is a huge fear as well as a liability, right? So when those things started happening and it was being talked about, you just know you can't pass that information around. It's always good to know that you have a verifiable source. And a lot of people, you have a choice as the buyer, as the seller in the transaction. You get to say what title company you want. Now there is a detail, who's really paying for the title insurance, because they're the overriding choice of the process. So if the buyer is buying their own title insurance, they get to say, I am absolutely using this title company. Sometimes lenders like to say, oh no, we want to go with this title company. But I like, for the benefit of my client, whichever side that may be, is that it's a title company is local, that we know that if we have a problem, we can talk with, right?
Sure.
Because if it's out of state, I just got a closing document today for one of my agents, and they have the company name wrong, they don't have information on the final HUD that they need, and it's like, you just don't have any say over how other people do their business. But when it affects your business, that's the problem, right?
Well, and I can kind of also bring up, And there are other good local title companies, but when you get a bad one or someone that's just a little less, not as experienced, you'll find things like we just had a former client call us a couple weeks ago saying, "Hey, you closed me back in 3 years ago, and I'm going to sell the property. This title company's saying that there's liens on the property from a prior owner, and we can't close, and I got to get them cleared up." Well, that wasn't true. What happened, and I don't want to really bore anyone, but he bought it out of foreclosure, or an owner prior to him bought it out of foreclosure, and it wasn't a typical foreclosure where in a foreclosure process, all the creditors, everyone's served, and then once someone buys the property from foreclosure, after due diligence is done, the county or the courts file what's called a confirmation entry confirming the sale and releasing all the liens. Well, this foreclosure was done. It was actually, the judge ordered it to be closed through what's called a forfeiture because no one was buying the property. So they forfeited it to the plaintiff in the case, which was a tax company. It was a tax foreclosure. And he said that by forfeiture, all the deeds, everyone was properly served, he said, and all these particular liens, not deeds, were listed in the foreclosure. He said all the liens are clear, it's released. The owner now owns a property free and clear of all judgments. Well, this title company, because there was no confirmation entry filed, is holding up this guy's closing when even our underwriter said, no, it's, by forfeiture, it's in court order, a judge signed off of it. It doesn't have to be a confirmation entry. Sometimes we'll even have title companies say, well, the confirmation entry wasn't recorded in the recorder's office, therefore these liens need to be released, and that's not true. So that is holding up this guy's closing when in reality it shouldn't. Those liens are released, he's good to go. And there's just other situations that arise. Just one more, we had a few months ago, this lady, and I feel bad for her, and she actually laughed about it, but it wasn't really funny. Her husband died. They own the property by joint survivorship. Well, in that case, the prior title company filed an affidavit of survivorship, meaning the husband died, the property automatically goes to her. That's normally what should happen. That's what this title company thought happened. But a lot of title companies don't know, according to our underwriter, that a joint survivorship, if you get divorced, that voids the joint survivorship language. So she did not get the property automatically by joint survivorship. It's supposed to go through the deceased husband's probate. The other thing that we found out, we got a copy of the divorce decree. The divorce decree specifically said that she was supposed to quitclaim all of her interest to him. So she had zero interest in the property. So there was a mortgage on the property. She actually refinanced at one point in her name. And so she had a mortgage in her name on the property, making all these payments, and she technically
Had no rights.
Had no rights to the property. But we got it cleared up. The estate, the children in the estate quitclaimed to her. At first she was going to walk away and not get anything, and we told her, no, please don't do that. We'll help you clear it out. But what would have happened through an experienced title company, they would have saw the joint survivorship, saw his interest transferred to her, allowed her to sell the property, and moved on. And this would have been an issue for the buyers down the road.
Down the road, yeah.
So there's lots of situations like that the title company you choose definitely matters.
Right.
So I feel like a title company is kind of like an iceberg. Like you as the buyer see, you go there, you sign all your stuff, you get the keys, like, woohoo, we're good. But like there's all of this stuff underneath that they do, which is really the bulk of your job.
Sure,
or
absolutely.
the bulk of your business.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the big differences in title companies is whether they have an on-site title examiner versus they send it out to somebody, and that's where title searches will take 2, 3, 4 weeks before they can have a closing. And can you imagine having your transaction held up because there's somebody else somewhere else that's doing this research, and then they'll get back? And I mean, I just like when it's local. I like when I know it's all right there if I have a problem. sorry, I come and see you.
So, and we don't mind, and to that point too, there's another thing about that. The title examiner is always looking to protect themselves. So when you have an independent title examiner, they will show everything. So they might know that it's not really an issue, but they'll show it and make the title company to figure out how they want to handle that issue. So that we've had situations where the title company, another title company will say, hey, there was this judgment, you did the title work, you didn't show it, we need it cleared up. For instance, some liens are only good for a certain amount of years. Well, just one example, we recently closed a property where there was a mechanics lien, and it was from 10 years ago. Mechanics liens are only good for 6 years. So the title company wanted us to clear up and get a release for this mechanics lien that was out by 6 years. So there was no need to clear it up, and they're holding up their clients because the title examiner knew that, but he's going to show everything. So they take that as we have to clear up anything an independent title examiner shows, and it'll hold up closing. So.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you coming in and talking with us. We're sure we'll have more questions as opportunities come up and problems maybe.
Sure.
So at the end of every episode, we give our viewers a tip. So what would be your tip for them today?
Well, a tip, always definitely make sure you have a title search performed on your property and get title insurance. I clearly find title issues all the time. If nothing more, a peace of mind. One time, you buy it once, never have to buy it again. So why not just buy title insurance?
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for joining us today on the Realty Podcast. If you enjoyed the knowledge and entertainment today, please subscribe and share with your friends. We will be embarking on a journey that bridges the gap between realtors and clients, uncovering the heart and tea of real estate.